Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring on a very special guest now to the stage, and he is called Flag Hippo, and you are all gonna sing his theme tune. We're gonna get that going. So hit the music, please. He has to hear the music before he comes on. Here we go. Flag Hippo, Flag Hippo. Let me hear you. Flag Hippo, Flag Hippo, Flag Hippo, Flag Hippo. Keep it going. Flag Hippo, Flag Hippo, Flag Hippo, Flag.
All right. I was very close to just running back my previous character, since they haven't changed Replica Wings of Entropy and it's still busted. But then I ran into a new technology with Champion, which I had not considered at all before. I was in the camp, the very firm, large majority that thought banners were a waste of time. Banners are clunky, banners are annoying, doesn't matter if they give me nice bonuses, I don't want to have 3 extra buttons in my build, and so on and so forth. Then I ran into a guide made by Seiki. He has a little YouTube channel, he does forum guides, and he's played in a solo self-round hardcore, not in Ruthless. A character built around solo self-round hardcore, which tends to be not completely adjacent to Ruthless gearing, but it provides like the closest thing that isn't Ruthless. So I used that as a baseline. I thought, well, this is a 25 million damage character. What if I take out all the really hard to get things and stuff? What do I end up with? And I end up with this, and this is crazy. Once I'd settled on making this like Ruthless viable, I knew that this was going to be my starter. It's a high doubt. This is with 740 DPS weapon currently. And gets up to this kind of damage with that. This is a reasonable gear set. There is another gear set here for a less reasonable gear. This character does a few things really well. One of those things is it can move very fast through maps with Defiance Banner. Another one of those things is it does a lot of damage to bosses very well, and it also gains amazing block defenses. You can get this also to 65% with further gearing and investment. It gets cap suppression. All of the cool stuff from this character comes from banners. And again, I thought, well, how do we maintain banner uptime? The problem with banners is they are tied to Valour, a mechanic which is similar to like Glory you find in Path of Exile 2, except you can place a banner without being at the maximum Valour. It's kind of similar to Glory if you play Path of Exile 2 and you've got Glory mechanics, things where you have to generate, it's a generator spender kind of mechanic. The problem with Valour is it's generated similarly to Rage. Like Rage, you can get so much Rage on hit, and only one hit every half a second can cause you to gain Rage. And this is the problem with Valour. Where's an explanation for it here? Valour is gained when you have a banner skill and augments the power of those skills. You gain 1 Valour on melee kill or hit against rare or unique enemies, no more than once every 0.5 seconds. The problem with this is, well, that's 2 Valour gain per second base. Even if I take all the Valour gain stuff, that's only 4 per second. That's not enough. We're not making stuff fast enough to make this a build. Now this is going to be like temporary bonuses, like, oh, it's nice to get my block chance up, but it's going to take a while to get there, and to get there for all 3 banners. How do I sustain them? How are we going to generate Valour fast enough to sustain all 3 of these banners at once?
That's right, we're gonna cheat.
There's a mastery that lets you get 5 Valour when you Warcry if you're able to, as in if you're not at your max Valour. Every time we Warcry, we get 5 Valour. This gets scaled by these increases to Valour gained, and there's 5 of these on the tree, so that's 100%, so that's 10 Valour per Warcry. Now what do we do with Warcries? We auto-exert them. This build is... You can play this build without this. Obviously, this is a Ruthless starter. I'm not going to be able to get this like for free, but this build needs this so badly, which is why I don't think it's a good solo self-found starter. But yeah, we have multiple Warcries on auto exertion, and then we have a couple more we can even self-cast. You might see that the number of buttons is slowly going up, but don't worry. This is just 1 skill, 2 Warcries, 3 banners, and you don't have to press the banners that often. So all things considered, we can generate enough max Valour to place down a banner. We can generate, it's 105, and we generate this in about 5 to 6 seconds on average. And that's fast enough to sustain all 3 banners at once very comfortably. We can run more duration support as well, we're looking at a 30-second skill duration with that. That's bearing in mind that this got nerfed. This is nerfed to Ruthless, so we don't have the increased duration. We can take someone to Mastery here, which is really nice. But yeah, we have 30-second duration on these banners, and we can make a full strength one every 6 seconds. The full strength banners also refresh our endurance and frenzy charges. They also do like loads of other kooky things, like give us enemies explode on kill. They also linger for 3 seconds, so this is also quite important because when we're mapping, we're not dropping all 3 banners constantly at once. That's a bit too much. Mapping is generally like, instead of using a Quicksilver flask to run with like 40% extra movement, increased movement speed, we place Defiance banner. Let me actually quickly go over what each of these banners do, because this is the centerpiece of the build. Because if I disable these, you'll notice that this build does a third of its damage and doesn't get these bonuses. But this is fine because War Banner is up basically anytime we want to kill anything that needs our attention to be killed, so it isn't like a shitter pack. Any rares, stinky rares, bosses, anything, War Banner is active. So you might have considered this. I think about uptime like this in terms of builds, where it's like, I don't necessarily need 100% uptime, I just need 100% uptime when things matter. So we can we'll always have War Banner available. Maybe I'll do this individually. So War Banner triples our damage, lol. It gives us a massive boost to accuracy, so we can just use precision for accuracy. And we're more than overcapped, so if we get blinded, we still don't lose precise technique, which is nice. And it gives us massively increased physical damage. The way banners scale is very important, is you get more aura effect per Valour, so this is getting 10% more aura effect times 105, so that's 1050% more aura effect. That means these little increases to aura effect, increased aura effect. You know how it usually is in Path of Exile, where like if I have increased damage and I have more damage, and generally more damage is better. Banners, it's the other way around. With the more damage is baked, the more aura effect is baked into the banner. It's the increases here that are super valuable. So when I turn on Defiance banner, our movement speed goes from like our standard plus 35% to plus 207%. Pretty funny. It's 300% movement speed. It might actually be hard to control. And we also get, so this isn't just suppression. This isn't just food. This is eminent. This is not just suppression, because Banner also grants minus 12 damage taken if each damage type from suppressed hits to you and allies, which also gets scaled massively. If you think that that 8% increased movement speed has become like 100 and something, 172, think about how much that flat damage reduction is also getting scaled. That adds up. When you're getting shotgunned by a lot of little spell hits, that adds up. But yeah, this is the one we're going to have on pretty much all the time when we're moving around, because of that Linger Mastery, and because the area effect of these banners is big. We can run around, and then as soon as we leave the banner as well, worth noting, the first node we take on the champion here gets us back. It says 30% of the Valour consumed when you leave its area. This does not work if you cancel the banner yourself or if it expires. You have to leave its area, but that's fine. What we want is that line saying we recover Valour, because that's Valour gain and it gets scaled with Valour gain, so we get 60%. We get like 60% of the Valour back. So you think about how fast, like 10 Valour per Warcry, we're going to leave our Defiance banner with 200% movement speed. That's going to linger for 3 seconds, potentially more if a Runegraft of the Warp scales it, which it should. I haven't tested it, but it should. So that could be even 4 seconds of lingering movement speed boost. And then in that time, we are 100% going to get back to that 105 Valour, and then we place it again. And if we run into a rare at some point, we'll be generating Valour very quickly. Like, we have General's Cry in here. General's Cry has a 1.5 second cooldown. That's giving us 10 Valour every time it's used. And so if we run into any rares while we're doing around at 200%, we just swap to, we put down War Banner with whatever Valour we have, kill that rare, and then move on. And then if you get into doing any, like, you run into the Breach, or you're doing Ritual or Ultimatum or whatever, in those cases where you're doing extra content where enemies are more deadly, now we drop our Dread Banner. And then we just rotate between these three. All we have to do is rotate between them, because Dread Banner is going to give us that block. And doesn't just give us 65%. This is with versatile combatant. You could just not do the spell block. I think we should do the spell block. I think it's much better to get the spell block in there because go into our little calc section. Currently the life on block for this build is 707. That's just from the flat. Again, this is a flat value in here, which is 34 life when blocking. That gets scaled up to 700 life with this setup. We can get more aura effect in here as well. This is the reasonable gear. I should just preview. This is the aspirational gear. When I say aspirational, it means I know I can get this. Just it will take some time. We've got a Fizz Light of Meaning in here. We've got a Watcher's Eye that doesn't have dead mods. We have the Jinx Juju, which is huge. I'll talk about how huge this is going to be. These two items here are never used them before, but I think they're going to be insane for this build if we can get them. Formless Flame as well, breach item. Hopefully it's not changed. I don't know. It's an option. So yeah. Anyway, tangent. Banners. So those are 3 banner effects, and that's how we're sustaining. So when we're mapping around, just to recap, this is the big thing about the button bloat problem, because this build will not run a Quicksilver Flask. It doesn't need to. It just gets giga movement speed from Defiance banner, like way more movement speed than any build in Ruthless should be getting. So instead, I'm not going to run a Quicksilver Flask, which is like 1 less button technically I'm pressing while mapping, right? So you know it sorts out. And then this is like we press one of these every like several seconds, which isn't that bad. The price we're paying for this power isn't that bad in terms of button bloat and stuff. And I am self-casting a couple of war cries. This one is self-cast partly because it gives an armor buff, which is very nice. We like the armor buff. Some people will self-cast Rallying Cry instead if they can have like Herald of Purity or like other allies nearby. It's an option for us. We have minion options in our late game setups that we can do. But I like Seismic Cry anyway. And also Battle Mage's Cry, but that's because we want something to trigger other stuff like Blood Rage, Vulnerability. If you can find another source of Leech Stone and you don't care about the attack speed, you don't have to run Blood Rage. You can put Hex Bloom on Vulnerability if you want better clear. You could run Consecrated Path if you want a movement skill. I don't really care for the movement skills though. I'm going through this very quickly and like not very well structured right now, honestly. I'm just talking about gems now quickly. But yeah, like Earthshatter here is on the 6 link. I always POB around 6 links now in Ruthless. I used to be like, oh, well, I need to do enough damage on a 5 link. I always get a 6 link eventually, so I might as well POB around it. And what this, you know, when I'm starting to do proper like pinnacle content on this build, if this will, you know, there's no melee physical damage support here because I don't want to run too many ones that reduce attack speed too much. I think the build will just start to feel bad if I do. You'll notice also there's 2 Earthshatter links here. One of them is POB'd around being the spike, and the other is POB'd around the hit. So this is 2 spikes hitting on average, and then also the hit. And put over auto exertion, banners. For auras, we want to run a big aura like Pride for damage. It's just like 50% more damage. We scale this aura effect very well. Another really nice thing about this build is all this aura stuff we take that helps our reservation also helps the effect of our auras, also helps the effect of our banners because banners are auras. So aura. Obviously again, you'll have to find or buy this on Ruthless Trade or something if you're playing SSF. This is not an SSF guide. I'm probably just going to stop mentioning SSF for this guide. I would, if you get some of the pieces for this, like if you get auto exertion, I would consider running this. I think this is a really strong build, but if you don't have auto exertion, I would not consider running it in SSF. You can start it in trade without auto exertion. It's a little bit more like more limited in terms of how many buttons we can press, kind of thing. But I definitely look into getting Pride. Blood and Sand is free though. We get Blood and Sand. That's nice. We scale that effect as well. Quite nice. And then Precision here is on Arrogance, because without that, it kind of guts the rest of our mana pool. So we do lose a bit of life for that. A decent chunk, actually. But that's only because I have a level 20. You can fill around with this. You didn't have to have it so high level, because as you can see, we are hitting that threshold at about level 12 here, 13, 40. The only reason I want the extra flat, you could get some more flat on gear, for instance, to help. Like, you can just run this at lower level. If you can get loads of flat on gear, you could even free up the sockets. But the thing with precision, I don't want to be affected by blind. I'd rather lose a little bit of hit points so I can't get blinded or anything. Though probably like map mods that reduce our aura effect will still most likely put us below the precise technique threshold, which is fine. I have where did I lose some damage just now? Oh, I turned this off. Nice. But yeah, precision arrogance. Obviously, before you have pride, you can run it without. Obviously, you'll need the arrogance once you have like your 50% aura, and you can also just run like, you know, there's loads of auras this build can run as a stopgap. You can run better defensive auras. You could just run determination if you want to do less damage but be way tankier. You can run purity of elements if you have troubles with belly res. I'm just POBing for pride because big number is fun, but it's also I think best to just juice the damage like that. And the wind up is like fine because like, we're winding up a bit anyway. And then yeah, I went over the vulnerability, but this is cool. This is cool, and that's the gems basically. So as you can see, it's like we're running around with Earthshattering. We're automatically Warcrying a lot. We have a couple of Warcries we want to self cast, but we have Admonisher and stuff. We have Warcry speed. They're not very slow to cast. It's like thinking it's a third of a second to like go. So you got to press those couple of buttons every now and then, the Earthshattering, and then every like several seconds you place down another banner, just to keep the uptime on all three of them. And you'll probably like immediately feel it if you don't have uptime on all your banners, because you'll be like, wow, I'm moving slower, or wow, I don't have any block. So you know, and you can in a pinch you don't have to wait till the max Valor. You can just place one down if you're missing one, and it's like, oh, I've got 50 Valor. You can place down your block banner and get some benefit from it if you're suddenly in a pinch, because they also we're also recovering 3% of life per 5 Valor consumed, which is a lot of life. That's like 61% at max when we place it. And we also regenerate a lot of life. I'd love to see, I don't know if this stacks, I don't think it does. I've heard that this stacks. So I have POB'd. This is kind of hearsay though. This might be inflation, POB inflation, to say it's 24% increased. But it kind of makes sense if it is, because it's like if you wear a helmet that says nearby enemies take 8% increased damage, right? And then you get a party member wearing the same helmet, it doesn't cancel it out. They take 60%, right? Mercenaries showed this to us as well, where we put, you know, items on them to reduce our damage further. So it's like having 3 banners that the enemies nearby each of them, they should get affected by this by each of them, which means this might stack. I'd love to find out, but I haven't been able to do enough testing. I've been too busy. But we get a lot of regen, we get leech, I'm taking the fortify node here, which is nerf for ruthless. Obviously you only have 15 fortification. It is optional to lose a bit of damage. You could take Master of Metal instead and run Fortify support. It is kind of nice though, having the 15 fortification when you haven't hit anything for a moment, because there are moments where like you're just taking a hit before you can get a hit in. Like sometimes when you die and your fortification's down, then that sucks, you know. Quickie on items. Stop sorting by DPS. This is all the reasonable endgame gear I kind of threw together. Just to note as well, if I say my banner isn't placed, we are res capped. We are very comfortably res capped. I would not cap your res with the banner. You'll notice we're massively overcapped, which is useful. We can use that for some things. But I would not rely on the banner res to cap your res, because you don't want to be caught out in a second where like you have no banner for like just a moment and you take a hit and it deals like giga damage to you. You could always like be a tiny bit undercapped and it should be fine, but like even so, like I'd still try to get to I still try to cap with gear. All of this stuff is just rare gear with like life and res, really, and there's some Eldritch Simplicities to aim for. So reduced life regeneration rate is so important for doing Maven. Mana cost of attack's very important because Earthshatter is like it costs a lot. We are taking on this main tree. I'm not taking Cannibalistic Rite. Could do. Taking Spirit of War and taking Life Mastery, and I guess that's what I did. I took that instead of that. But you could make it even cheaper if you don't want to run this like Jewel Socket. But yeah, I like this. I think this build always wants to use a rare chest because you want the aura effect mod. It's just so powerful to get that aura effect mod. This is just impale and attack speed implicits, and again you see this res. Obviously, no, it's a lot of res and stuff. Like you don't need this much to cap. Boots, intimidating cry, cooldown, recovery rate's really nice on those. Amulet options, like early on, I'm probably going for like something like a Carnage Heart. I don't know, why is this not previewing properly anymore? There we go. Probably going for something like looking for something like a Carnage Heart. It helps with attributes and stuff and gives us some damage. Deep Breaths is the anoint you want on every amulet, though it will take an opalescent oil, so until then you can go like Battle Trance for +10 rage. It's very cheap. Carnage Heart early, and then when I get a lot more money going and stuff, I'll try to get a Jinx Juju. And rings are similar, just fucking life and res attributes where needed. Belt of the Deceiver, I think is a really nice option for this build as well. Bit of crit damage immunity, intimidate. You might be thinking, oh, why do you need intimidate? We have intimidating cry. Just to emphasize, this is not a valid source of intimidate. Though it says enemies taunted by this war cry are intimidated, if you then war cry with anything else and taunt them with another war cry, it will override that effect. Enemies can only be taunted by one source at once. So as soon as we Infernal Cry or General's Cry, because even General's Cry taunts, it will override it. So we want a source of intimidate properly. So Belt of the Deceiver is a nice source of that. I like that. And Flasks here is just like, why is this not previewing properly anymore, man? This isn't previewing anything for me anymore. What? There we go. It's so weird. I like using flasks in Ruthless, like PoE 2 trinkets, where you can give them enchantments and gain immunities to things or boosts. So like, we can just get max res with some Ruby Topaz stuff while we're running around. We can get armor when we take a savage hit, if we're taking like big fizz slams. And I've just put a rare jewel in here for now with some life and some chaos res and stuff. I like taking at least one jewel socket. It's really nice for solving attributes and res and stuff where needed. Moving on to the base tree quickly, because I've got some leveling trees here. But just go over the base tree first. We take Precise Technique, but like kind of like at the end of this path here, you can take this early while leveling if you want to, but I don't think the per point value is very good early on if you path over to it. If you think about it, it's 40% more damage, but you're like going, yeah. And then we don't really take anything else around here earlier on, because we don't take this earlier on. We can take the life, but we do still take it, obviously, because we get so much accuracy for free. It's kind of funny. The important thing for this build is like we've got Unwavering Stance for Sun Immunity. We take Admonisher. That's the Warcry Debilitate Mastery. We path over to this quite early on. I think I recommend pathing over to this in like Act 2, just because Intimidating Cry damage is so important. And then when we take this as well, you can take the Life Recovery Mastery. That's only when you use a Warcry. So you may want to change this for like the... I think I do change it, yeah. Become less important later on. I changed this like once you are doing rage stuff with the rage mastery, you can do this mastery, and then you have also automated rage gain. We have permanent max rage, and we could use Berserk therefore, but I don't think Berserk is very useful unless you're stacking like a lot of extra rage. It doesn't math out as being that good. But yeah, while you can level this with like Sunder. But you can also level it with the Earthshatter banner angle, which I've been testing. I'm up to like Act 5 and stuff, and it's pretty smooth. But you do have to know what you're doing with, like, you take this first, basically. You get the increased Valour gained, and then you take the Warcry Banner Mastery, I think, here. Yeah. No, this is swapped over. But this would be the Warcry one. Let's move that around so it's not confusing. you get the Valor when you Warcry, and then you already at that point have like 60% increase, so you're getting 8 Valor every time you Warcry, and you have 50 max at this point, so every 2 Warcry rotations you do, you have your banner back, which is really nice for even early in the campaign. Down here, damage-wise, we don't take that much on the tree, you see. Like, we're taking Bastion Breaker, more for the utility of ignoring enemy physical damage reduction. That's the other reason we're taking Impale thing here. You can cap Impale with, like, other sources, potentially, and you could also take Master of Metal, which comes with a bit, instead of Fortification, as I mentioned earlier. But I really want this Mastery, because otherwise your Impale damage kind of gets brick-walled by enemies with, like, high PDR, and then you're missing out on, like, a lot of damage. Impale is quite a lot of our damage. But I take this for attack speed. Over here, this is another thing we take. I think I take this in, like, say in Act 4, yeah, we're taking this. You can take 1 rage on hit there, but I don't feel like it's worth taking the rest just at this point. You could do, though. But this will scale our banner effect a good bit, but also give us the elemental resistance, and that 5% elemental resistant is added onto all the banners effect. This is why we have so much overcap, because the banners are all getting that scaled massively, so it's like 100% or 100 and something percent per banner. And you can imagine, like, even with like just 50 max valor and less aura effect, it's still kind of crazy how much res you can get just from placing war banner. Really helps shore up your lack of res in the campaign, just while you're like fighting anything, like any bosses mostly. So you can just chain war banner as you run around as well. Versatile Combatant, I only take this when I start using Dread Banner. And it's worth noting that before you have Auto Exertion, I don't think you can probably use Dread Banner effectively, because your Valor generation just won't be fast enough to use all 3 banners. So that's the other reason why Auto Exertion is so important. But yeah, Versatile Combatant, again, like, it massively improves our survivability versus spells. We can get this to 65%, as I said, with better gearing. But even just this is crazy good. Live Chill Socket, and then this is like the God Cluster, but it's the one we take last, because until we have better Valor generation, getting the max Valor isn't that helpful. But once we do, it's like it's crazy good. And then this is where we also get Bannerman, our namesake, which gives us the Linger, which is so good, and some increased duration. You can always, if you can't fit in more duration support, but you want to get more duration, you can always take these small nodes as well. And then, like, post-campaign, I start taking this, like, aura stuff once we have, like, the whole banner engine kind of going. You take the aura stuff with area effective auras, reservation efficiency, because you don't need the reservation efficiency until you find more auras, really. Aura skills at 50% duration is very important to take here, because we don't have that from here. And then I also took the increased effect of the new here, because again that is going to increase that block, as well as increases our precision accuracy, increases our war banner accuracy. You see, it's loads of little but big differences, and also a bit more movement speed. So and then yeah, up here you have this section where we have the Aura and Terror, which is really exciting and fun to play with. Gives us explodey. Remember how much everyone would crave having like explodey chests back in the day, back when I played in like Delirium League and shit? Everyone wanted explodey chest. Everyone wanted explosions. So we get those basically for free, which is cool. Well, it's not for free, it's free points, but it's nice because like we don't really need to take another banner mastery, so this gives us a spare mastery for a rune graft. It's very important to get some spare masteries for rune grafts. Our mastery here for reduce from crits, because we don't want to get one shot. This is the node we take earlier. You see, I'm adjusting the path. I'm adjusting the pathing here. So like we go here first, but then eventually we've changed it around. There are a few different ways you can do this pathing, honestly. Like you could actually technically, this is the same. I could just do this instead, which is fine. But this does give you the option if you went here and you wanted to like drop the life. I wouldn't drop the life, but if you wanted to, you could, and then you could put that something somewhere else. This kind of just looks more point efficient though, which is kind of funny. That is the end game tree. And yeah, we're getting a mean like 7 million damage on a 6 link with a reasonable end game axe. I mean, I think I have a Sinvictors in here. Even on Sinvictors, like the damage, like doing like 4 million on a 6th link, or like even we can go 5 link. Let's just get rid of like, I don't know. Let's just take off Impale. Like gutter Impale damage, but it's 3 million on a 5 link with a Sinvictors. This is really fucking good, man. This is the kind of damage I needed for this build to potentially be competitive with my Replica Wings of Entropy build I played last league, which did kind of this kind of damage, but only with like when I had a Maraline's Fallacy and shit. So yeah. Just go over some stuff in the config because we're using just make sure. Yeah, we've got this stuff ticked. So I've got Rage uncapped here just in case I want to change it so you can see this isn't actually what we have, but we're always leeching, we're fortified, don't have adrenaline, doesn't even help that much. We've used Warcry recently, averaging 6 Warcries used recently. We get 50% increased damage from that, which is really cool. Enemies are debilitated, that's mastery. Pretty much always debilitated because it lasts a second and we spam Warcries often enough. Like General's Cry comes out every 1.5 seconds and our other Warcries just randomly happen as well, so should be pretty much permanent uptime. And also yeah, enemies are intimidated. It doesn't really change anything if I tick that. Pia being for max effect pride just because why wouldn't you? Nothing else, no other funny business, just aside from this might just be 8% to be fair. If this is just 8%, then we lose some damage. It's not a big deal. Apparently it stacks, so. And we're leaving one of these ascendancy things unallocated here. You might think like, oh, where's your Uber Lab? My Uber Lab is going into the Feral Bloodline. I'm very excited for Bloodlines. I was torn at first, but whether I wanted to try to make some delirium stuff work. Also, this is completely speculative on whether these things are changed or like not for Ruthless, whether we even get them in Ruthless. It would be hilarious if they just they're like, sorry, lol, we don't know how to balance these for Ruthless, so we're just not going to put them in. It could happen, but I am hoping that they're in, and I'm hoping I can take the Feral Bloodline so I can get a Beast Spectre. Now for this, let's go into the Gucci gear section because this isn't something that requires, the whole Feral Bloodline doesn't require all our GG gear, but I've kind of lumped it into the same area because it's a bit more of a late game thing. I have Raised Spectre here with Meat Shield, and this we might not even need Meat Shield. We could probably run an Animated Guardian as well. For this I've added Determination. With Determination has no reservation because I'm planning to get that from a turtle, which I continually conjugate to myself with Battle Mage's Cry, with this whole setup here. And I can like afford to not life tap this at this point, I think, with the cost reduction I've got from running Vivinsect. Need to crop enough items for that to work. Bit that, as I said, that this is where things get to the late game, kind of like this is all possible, but it's like will take a while to put together. But let's just talk about the Spectre for a second. The Feral Bloodline gives us a buff, which I haven't actually put in here actually. Let me put in here. It's 20% increased attack speed, 20% increased movement speed, and I'm not going to put the other bit, but the Wild Will gives you action speed cannot be reduced below base value, which is huge. It's like it basically gives you the Jug node, because we don't care if our movement speed really gets reduced because it's fast. It's way too fast as it is. But our action speed getting reduced is really nasty for trying to slam, and then we're slamming at the speed of a snail because we're chilled or whatever. So freeze immunity, chill immunity from that. On a Spectre that will have 3 bonus modifiers which all improve its toughness by default, so it's very tough already as a summon. The Turtle as well is a pretty tough summon as well, and then on top of that, the Spectre will get all our banner effects. So it gets the suppression, it gets the block, it gets the life on block, it gets the regen, it gets the Ellie res. You see what I'm doing here? I was so excited when I realized like how well this fits together. That's why we're definitely leaving space for that. We don't really take anything else off the Bloodline. We're just taking that one node. We keep the fortification, I think. The only other thing to talk about is graphs. I don't have on this currently. I might put... You could put Molten Shell here. Tentatively. And then you could maybe like not run Blood Rage again if you have another source of leech. And then run Molten Shell on this Battle Mage's Cry setup. But I don't know if this will share a... Because it says it shares a cooldown with other guard skills. I don't know if that will apply to the graft, the breach graft that applies a guard skill, because I might just use that one. It does have a longer cooldown, but it's also just a better guard skill. This one will also give us bonus armor and stuff, which is nice. You might see our armor's very high here. Let's move on to Gucci items. I put a 900 DPS axe in here because I'm fingers crossed that the breach poop tree crafting is going to be very good for us. Necropolis 2.0. Obviously, like, you know, we can just do this with the regular one, and it's still like we've still gained a lot of damage from all these changes. Formless Flame is in here. I'm hoping this is again the same. We've seen S's visage. Hopefully this is here as well. It's a very good hat because it uses all our overcapped resistances to give us increased armor, like massively increased armor. We can also try to get an Echoes of Creation though. This build could do Ubers. I believe that this is my attempt to do Ubers in Ruthless. I've not done them before. I'm not someone who does builds that can do them generally, but this build I think can do them. With the suppress, with the block, with the life gain, with everything you have and the damage. Should be uber viable in Ruthless, which is crazy because the movement speed is also crazy as well. This is like having like 500 flame dash daggers up your ass kind of movement speed. So we might be able to get ourselves our own Echoes of Creation if we don't just like walk into every fucking Shaper Beam, because like most builds I run, I mean this build does kind of counter degens a bit with the regen we have, but like I don't know. Uber Shaper's still a bitch. But yeah, Echoes of Creation, we could also try to buy it off someone obviously if we get loads of money. Massive increase to damage, and we can, if we get that Determination Turtle, and you know, even without Formless Flame armor, this is enough armor to tank the self-damage pretty reliably, so we could do that. The other thing I really want to run here is Jinx Juju. 10% less damage taken from this if we're using Spectre, which we're constantly generating. Remember, we're applying... There's 10.5% regen near our banner, right? 10.5% regen. That's like having Grookful's Pelt on an animated Guardian. And we're going to have that on our Spectre. So it can take that damage. And we get increased effect of non-curse auras from this as well. Still allocating that deep breaths though. We're not pathing over there. We're not changing it. It's just too good to get our Warcry CD from that. Like, you could try to compensate not having that Warcry CD with more tattoos, but then you just have to find loads more strength elsewhere. You could maybe do that. There might be an endgame anoint option you can do if you can get loads of tattoos and also get loads. It's a bit hard though. At least we do get a lot of strength potentially though from Vivinsect. Vivinsect is the other really cool thing I'm excited to use. This isn't like stupidly rare. It's rare. But there are like a dozen of them unclaimed on trade last league, and only one person using one actually. It's not often used because it has very niche uses. Reducing reservation efficiency is not a nice thing to do to an aura when you're trying to squeeze in auras usually, even for the +5 levels. But we're going to put this, we're going to use it for a banner, which doesn't have any downside because it doesn't have reservation, but it gets the +5 levels. And by putting Dread Banner in this, that's how we get this to 65-65. So Dread Banner's in here now. I don't think, yeah, it doesn't even need to be level 21. Level 21. Oh, it does. It increases the life gain actually. Yeah, so we try to get level 21. The +5 levels means we now get 1,000. We've 1,000 life on block. This is to be clear, this is like 2/3 of the time we take no damage and heal 1,000 life. Only 1/3 of the time we take damage, and generally we'll have cap suppression for that as well. crazy. But the other reason I want to run Vivinsect is for that mana cost of skills. If you're doing this kind of thing on non-ruthless, you can just get the Veiled mod for your Warcries, but it's very, very, very desirable to get some corrupted items. That's why there's a corrupted Formless Flame here. I want to try to get that. Corrupted Bow of the Deceiver. I've also corrupted the Vivinsect itself here, potentially. That's a bit more dangerous, but like you want to get, I think, at least 3 corrupted items, hopefully, and that will make your Warcry mana drain a lot more manageable. This mana cost might not be manageable, but like I'll just adjust as I go. Normal like endgame ring here again, and still keep on the Bow of the Deceiver again. Like, I think it's nice to run this for the Intimidate and the crit damage reduction, and this is an easy target to farm for corrupting. You can even try to double corrupt these until you get a good one. I put max life on this one now just so I can inflate the life pool that I have kind of cannibalized a bit with the choices I've made on this build. That's partly because things like Formless Flame doesn't have life on it. Alternatively, you could run less armor on your chest and get a big life mod on your chest. Yeah, there's a lighter meaning here. This gives us a casual, like, 20% more damage or something. Quite nice. A bit more than that, even. Yeah, 26%. Very good place. So moving this cluster over here to get more benefit from that. Running a Rune Graft to the river here instead of taking a Mastery, though, as well, because I think this is very nice as an extra recovery layer. I don't know how many other major changes there are. I dropped Soul of... I kind of do want to find a way to fit Soul of Steel, honestly. It's like, it's a chunk of points, but the max res is very nice, so... A lot of this stuff you can play around with. I've hedged this at level 92. You can play around with this stuff as you like. You might just decide I'm doing enough damage and say, fuck it, I'm just going to get more defenses. In practice, I'm going to see how often I die to brain farting my banners. Hopefully it's 0. But this will take some getting used to, the whole like banner uptime thing. And obviously you don't have the block all the time when you're running around maps, so I feel like as this build gets later and later into endgame activities, it wants to focus more and more on extra content, which keeps it in one place. It does make it quite nice for Delve, I think. The extra movement speed, you can kind of just like run past everything, probably delving, which is pretty cool. And then when you stop in the node, you can just place all 3 of your banners when you're doing the node. So yeah, very good delve build, I think. I did have some notes here actually for like farming goals, because we want to farm Ritual for the Turtle, the Lighter Meaning. We can get like a 6-link Omen in there. Vivinsect from Betrayal, but you might just be able to buy one of these. And we want to get the Watcher's Eye for and stuff. Yeah, so that's basically it. There's a load of notes here as usual. I always like to do a load of notes. Pros and cons of the build, explaining how it works, having gear, stuff, you know. But yeah, I'm really excited to, let's put this back to like somewhat reasonable gear. I'm really excited to try to make this whole banner concept work. I think they're really, really strong for Ruthless, but no one really played them before, and I think it's because no one really talks about them much. People... For Ruthless builds, they often emulate what other people are doing in non-Ruthless and just try to make it work in Ruthless. And because barely anyone's been doing banners in non-Ruthless, no one's even thought about doing them in Ruthless. But they're actually like better, I think, in Ruthless than non-Ruthless, because even though Champion does have some nerfs, like it doesn't have the increased effective auras here, and it doesn't have the duration here. And even with that, these bonuses are still insane and far beyond what you can get. The main competition for this build is Zerka, for instance. Like playing Earthshatter Zerka. And the thing with Zerka gets to attack faster because it gets Warbringer, so it gets faster exert. So it gets attack speed from Rage, and it gets Warbringer, and it gets Defy Pain. And that's kind of it. And you get Rite of Ruin, or you can take shitty Aspect of Carnage, which sucks. And if you have Rite of Ruin, now you're losing life, so it's like, you know... I just think this looks like so much more of an exciting angle. It looks like it's so much tankier at the top end, so much more viable for doing Ubers. Especially like pinnacle content, like Because one of the big things about this league is the bloodline ascendancies. A lot of people are going to want them. They're going to be able to do their Uber Lab. They'll have their Uber Lab point, but they're not able to do tier 15 Simulacrum. They're not able to find Farrell, Burst of the Plains, whatever he's fucking called. They can't do Uber like I'm not doing Sanctum anyway, but with the movement speed, I wonder if this is even a good Sanctum runner. It probably isn't. It's probably hard to control. I'm never doing Sanctum and Ruthless. It sucks. But this is definitely like, there are two things that this league is for. One of them you have Breach, which is kill monsters in a circle. Depending on the size of the circle, it will depend on how good this build is for it, but I think it's going to be very good for it regardless. Just has very good like AoE clear and big circle and pops and shit. So you have that, and then you have bosses, and you have more of an emphasis in Ruthless on clearing endgame bosses so that you can potentially sell people their Bloodline Ascendancy. That's really cool. So I'm most likely looking at doing that. I'm not going to go over the leveling trees in depth because they're quite nebulous. There's a few different ways to skin the cat with these kind of things, but if you look at the PoE, you can look through them. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else to mention really. Some of this stuff I will have to fiddle with until like I can be confident that it's working the way I want it to. Oh, and yeah, you kill all bandits because like every passive point. I think like the introduction of rune graphs is just like, it's really hard to justify not killing all the bandits now. I always feel like I'm one passive point behind, even with killing all the bandits. Doing well. Every pass is important. I'm gonna try pushing this higher than 92 as well. Will depend on my fucking mental health, basically. I can only grind so hard so long before it gets to the point where, like, when you get to the point in Ruthless where dying loses you like a day's worth of XP, it's like, oh my god. Anyway, yeah, I still have no idea how to end these things.